Our overall topic today is going to be don't take your reward today. You'll see why when we get to the part about the Pharisees. A lot of what we're talking about is just simply patience, learning to have patience. So let's do a quick definition of what patience is. Patience, simply put, it's the ability during the day, course of your daily life, to endure your various hardships, those delays that come along, the frustrations. There's so many things we'd add to that list, but it's without losing that calm, that joy, that peace, that Philippians 4, 6, and 7, that type of thing. Now, I don't have a slide for this, but patience is not laying down and letting people walk all over you. Patient, godly people know when to fight and stand up to fight, and they know when to walk away from a fight and leave something alone. And if in those cases where it's time to walk away and leave it alone, someone wants to characterize that as though we gave up, laid down, cowered it out, and did whatever and make it negative, let them go ahead and characterize it like that, because we do not have to accept every invitation to an argument and a conflict that life offers us. So be really, really selective on those invitations that you accept. And you're going to get more of those invitations than you get junk mail in your mailbox in a political season, if you know what I mean. And then your mailbox starting to fill up. It's starting to happen, isn't it? So patience. We're going to keep that peace that passes understanding. We're going to live in the eye of the storm, and we're going to keep on moving forward. And it's going to be something that helps us grow stronger. Now, before we move on to the next verse, let me ask you, would you like to be stronger? How many of us would sit here and go, no, preacher, don't worry about it. I'm as strong as I ever want to be, as I'll ever need to be. I have maxed out on strength. I don't need any more strength. Now, if you're there, I want to know your secret, because I'm not there, and I got an idea a lot of us aren't. So what we do is we develop our strength. Now, this is a little cryptic almost, but it says, wait for the Lord. Wait. That's patience. Now, waiting doesn't sound like exercise, but spiritually, in spiritual training, in the spiritual gym, waiting is exercise. In fact, it's God prescribed exercise. As you're looking at Psalms 27:14, and we consider the scriptures to be inspired by the very breath of God, God said, wait. The very next statement says, be strong and let your heart take courage. Now, where are you going to get strong and take courage? Part of the training is in the waiting, because he says on the very other side of that statement, yes, wait for the Lord. And so waiting, spiritually, patience, that's training. We have another verse, Isaiah 40:31. He says, yet those who wait for the Lord, there's that same idea. I'd use the word patience, but wait is awesome, right? And so he said, those who wait for the Lord gain new strength. But wait a minute, who is it that gains new strength? It's not those who rush ahead. It isn't the impatient. It isn't those who, I got to have what I want right now. I got to have it when I want. Got to have it how I want. Those who gain new strength are those who learn to wait. This is one of our training practices. And those who learn to wait, they will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary. And one of the ways they get to that point, I agree, there's more than just patience and waiting, but one of the ways you get that way where you soar with the eagles and you run and don't get tired is by learning to be patient. Because impatience will wear you out. Impatience will wear you down, and impatience will siphon off all of the energy out of your life and leave you exhausted, unsatisfied, and unfulfilled. Be careful about impatience. So it's almost, I had to say almost, a superpower. Patience is really an advantage. It helps you avoid self-destructive behavior, and that can be in a dozen different ways. That can be in a trivial way concerning good, healthy eating habits, And it takes patience to learn how to do all of that, which is a fascinating study. It can be in relationships. It can just be in when to accept entertainment, when to say no to entertainment. There are just so many angles at that because there is a lot of self-destructive behavior. And let me remind you, using 2 Corinthians 10:23, that just because something is lawful doesn't mean it is helpful. Doesn't mean that it edifies. I know most of us don't play chess, so maybe I should say checkers. Just because a move is legal in checkers does not mean it's a smart move. Everybody understand that? Perfectly legal move, but you can move to the wrong square and get double jumped. End up giving somebody a double crown. And that was like the super move to make, wasn't it? So when you learn patience, it can help you avoid anger. Let you think some things through before you respond to them. Anxiety and worry helps you avoid a lot of that if you can learn it. It's tough though, isn't it? It's really tough. Helps you avoid bitterness. And that is, again, jumping into some conclusions ahead of time leads to bitterness. Learning to think before you dive in can save a whole lot of heartache. So I'm going to say it's a paradox because I do believe patience is very much of a paradox. Everybody wants it, but nobody wants to train for it. But if you're going to get patience, I'm sorry, there's only one place to get it. And that's in the hustle and the bustle and the aggravations and the unmet expectations and the frustrations and the irritations of life. There's no other place to get patience. If we could get patience sitting in our recliner watching Wheel of Fortune or whatever some good show may be, we would all be the most patient people in the world. Wouldn't it be great to train for patience? Okay, we got a 6-week patient training program, and all you got to do to get your patience is I want you to watch Andy Griffin once every night. And we're just going to pick an episode, and for 36 days or however long that works out to be, 7 times 6, 42, and then you'll have, now that doesn't work that way, does it? If it did, like I say, we'd all be the most patient people on the earth. We would have it mastered. If you're going to get patience, there's one way you get it. By getting into situations that require you to have patience. Now, do not go look for those. Life will give you plenty of them on its own. And when you're in between them, relax and take a breath. Because I'll promise you, you're not going to stay in between them. Something's coming up. So we get tons of opportunities to train. And I want you to really learn to recognize it in the mundane, in the simple. So you're in traffic, and traffic's not moving like you want it to. This is a time to practice patience. So what a lot of folks do, you're in traffic, it's not moving like you want. The car in front of you, the light just turned green, and 1 millisecond later, he has not yet started accelerating because they're still finishing up a text message or looking at whatever they're looking at on Facebook. And have you been in the car with somebody? They get red-faced. You can see the veins start to pop out on the side of their head. No, don't do that. This is an opportunity to practice patience. Now, let me, you go, okay, but I don't get that. Okay, let's suppose you're at your house and you're wanting to run to the grocery market. Let's say Walmart. And so you get in your car and you're getting ready to go to Walmart. And along the way, you face a whole 30, 45-second delay. Let's say there's actually been an accident and you had to sit there 5 minutes before they got that lane open so you could get on to Walmart. And you get to Walmart, what have you lost? You go, well, I lost 5 minutes of my life. Wait a minute. You worried about that? You were going to Walmart? And you get your milk and chips and you come back home and you're going to do what? Sit where? And do what for the rest of the evening? Watch TV? And blow a whole evening watching TV on mindless entertainment? And you're upset about 5 minutes sitting in the car? You should have turned on your favorite radio station. Sang along with your favorite song for a minute. When you start expanding it out and putting it into perspective, what's really at stake here The answer is usually nothing except, I think I am so crazy, mightily important that everybody on the road should realize that I'm on the road and they need to get out of my way so I can get my milk and get back home and get my recliner and watch my TV. Who do they think they are? Ooh. You know people that do that? Most of us do. And some of it is hysterical when you can stand back and look at it. Long lines, don't stand on my feet. Well, I'll get you one of them rollators with a seat on it. Simo Mary, quick story. It wasn't me, it was somebody else. Saw him out at Lowe's and he was sitting on his rollator seat. And they said, Sam, you okay? He said, doing just fine out here shopping. Just need to rest a minute. So he turned around, sat down, and rest, then he continued his shopping. Well, there's you an attitude, isn't it? Rude people are going to give you all kinds of opportunity to learn the patience of not to argue with a fool. Daily disruptions. I don't know how often your day goes exactly like you had it planned out, but I have an idea it's not consistently that way all the time. And then there's unmet expectations. There are just things we expected other people would do. We expected this or that. And it may be as simple as I expected Subway would have my turkey wrap. And I walk into Subway to order my turkey wrap, and all the crazy things, they're out of wraps. Got my turkey. Sharon and I went to Burger King once, ordered a salad, and they go, we're sorry, but we don't have any forks. I'm like, Walmart's right behind the store. Just walk over and get some forks. They're just unmet expectations. And the place that you're going to run into them the most, I think, are just these little bitty places. And you go, okay, wait a minute. It's all training. What can I learn here? Let me reflect, and let me reflect deeply for a minute. And when I say reflect deeply, I don't mean to analyze how big of an idiot you think somebody else is. That's missing the whole point. I mean reflecting on what were my expectations, what's my maturity level, what have I got going on so important in my life, so on and so forth. Now, I'll cut you a clear exception. If we're trying to get you to the hospital because you're having some kind of really serious pains, or you got a bone sticking out of your arm, we're going to be impatient. We're going to zigzag in and out and do some things we wouldn't normally do. We're going to get you there. But in the daily run of life, not that big of a deal. So common signs of impatience are whining. It's just this moaning and groaning, which essentially the Bible says don't murmur. And I should have put that verse up here. Complaining all the time. And again, complaining, if we go out to a restaurant, and this is the Pine Bluff state of mind, I love it. So Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, one of my favorite places to go when I want good service in another town. But we've been at Chick-fil-A right here. Good food, just as good as ever, but I call it that Pine Bluff state of mind. And be 30 minutes and you have to walk back up to the counter and go, I'm sorry, but I'm still waiting on whatever you ordered. And that's not uncommon in Bluff, is it? That's pretty common. Now, I'm not saying you are wrong to go back up to the counter and go, we're still waiting on our... That's fine. You got to stand up and speak up for yourself. But there's a difference between walking back up to the counter and saying politely to the little minimum wage person behind the counter, which ought to tell you something, I'm still waiting on my frosted coffee, which is the last one we had to go up and get just a couple of days ago because apparently, I don't know. Anyway, and then funny story, they brought the wrong coffee. So I had to whine, moan, and complain again. And I said, I'm sorry, but that's not what we ordered. We ordered the... Unfortunately, the little girl, the cashier, looks around and goes, that's right, you didn't order that. And they went back and got it fixed. Now, there's a difference between that and going, have y'all not got any sense in here? I want to talk to the manager. This is just crazy. This is the third time since y'all have opened that I've had to come up here. See, now that's whining, complaining, moaning. Or all the way home in the car, seething, or talking to somebody, just reliving. Don't do that. All of these are just versions of impatience, which is I want what I want, when I want it. I don't have that there, but I want what I want, when I want, the way I want it. And that's usually right now. Why didn't you read my mind, have that on the counter, ready for me when I walked in here? Well, they do have that. It's called a food app now, but anyway. So we have the impatient Pharisees. He said, beware of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father who's in heaven. I should have highlighted that part there in Matthew 6:1. You have no reward with your Father in heaven. So when you give to the poor, do not sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogue and the streets, so that they may be honored by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward in full. It's done. It's over. They've got it all. That's immaturity. That's impatience. They wanted it today. I want credit today. I want to know about it. I want honor today. I don't want to wait till sometime after I'm dead. Pharisees, they were weaklings. They lacked courage. They lack the strength to stand up and go, look, this world is not my home. I'm just passing through. My treasures are laid up. You know the rest of the song, somewhere beyond the blue, right? Christ taught in Matthew 6 that we lay up our treasures in heaven. And so it's not that we're never ever going to get rewarded. We're in Matthew 6:16 now. He says, whenever you fast, do not put on a gloomy face as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance so that they will be noticed by men when they are fasting. Truly, I say to you, they have the reward. Now, some of us practice fasting more for health reasons than spiritual reasons, but I believe they always overlap a little bit. I don't believe we're saying here that it's wrong to have a discussion about fasting or look at somebody and go, no, today's my fast day. It's that really, exaggerating it so that people will be going, wow, look at you, that kind of thing. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward in full. But when you fast, anoint your head, wash your face, so that your fasting will not be noticed by men. So you're not out there showing it off everywhere. But by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Now, the New King James adds one more word to that. He says, will reward you openly. We get a reward. We get a reward for the things we do. We're not anti-reward. We're just, okay, when are you going to get it? Do you want it today? You want the, woo, look at that guy go. Or do you want to wait till you get to heaven and hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant? We want a reward. We're just discussing, when are you going to take it? Where are you looking to get it? So it's going to take you a lot of courage. I think it does take courage. You got to wait an entire lifetime, and the cynic will laugh at you going, that's just pie in the sky. That's just a fairy tale. They'll make fun of you. You really do have to wait till you're dead. And we will say nice things about you at your funeral, because that's just the way we do funerals. And you're not going to hear one of them. So you're just going to have to trust when you die, we're going to say some nice things about you, because you're not actually going to be present to hear them. But we are going to say nice things about you. We'll highlight the good stuff. And most people, no, they just can't. No, I can't wait that long. What's the old saying? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And in Christianity, we're telling you to go for the two in the bush. It's symbolic of being in heaven. And that's hard. The way of the Pharisees, though, that was hard too. That was tough. They don't have a reward. They've been rewardless for 2,000 years. So here's a little concept I think is really good to ponder. Being a success in patience is painful. It's hard to be patient. Being a failure in patience is painful too. Now you got to just choose your pain. There's so many people nowadays that America is the craziest land of opportunity still ever. We still have people dying trying to get here to get a piece of the pie because they see the opportunity. Now with the internet, Google's getting outdated. Artificial intelligence is coming on. The opportunities are even better. And there's no better time to try to succeed than today because, and this is a little negative, but because so many people are too lazy to pursue it. And you tell them, man, the opportunities are out there. You need to find this thing and go for it. And you can do this, you can do that. And they go, it's hard. They're right. It's hard. And sitting around and doing nothing and regretting an empty, mediocre, unfulfilled life is hard too. And sitting in eternity with the Pharisees in hell is hard too. It's all painful. You have to choose which pain you want. So we're going to grow in our patience. Success in any area requires just a lot of training, which means we're going to grab our struggles and we're going to contemplate them. We're going to go, okay, how can I learn? Our sacrifices, our reflection. And the reflection, again, is going to be brutal on self. It's not going to be about judging other people because I can't fix other people. This is the only one I can fix, and you're the only one that can fix you. And so that's where you're going to put your focus in. I love the little saying, anybody can be an overnight success. It just takes 10 to 20 years to do it. Think about that a second. Alan Jackson, when he came on the scene, he was called an overnight success. And he's the first one I heard make that quote. He said, sure, it just took me 20 years to do it. He'd been singing all his life, been getting ready all his life. And then when he got his break, everybody thought, oh, he was just some magical success. No, he wasn't. So patience is not trained by avoiding those situations. Patience is trained by walking straight into something and going, look, I don't even know if this is possible, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the best I can be, and I'm just going to keep scrapping away. I'm going to keep just digging in the ground until I get there. So it's you embrace it. You correct the stinking thinking. Now, that's a quote from Zig Ziglar, who was one of my old favorites. He was very moral in all his motivational information. Today, you got to be a little more selective. But stinking thinking, if you'll ponder it a second, ties right back into Romans 12 and verse 2, where Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Christians learn to think in a totally different way than the world thinks. And when you correct the stinking thinking, then you start making progress. So you have to ask yourself a question. Do I want to be common like everybody else? Or do I want to step out and really be the ecclesia? Those few that travel the straight and narrow road. I think the disciples were impatient, probably in more ways than I understand. They spent 3 years with Jesus and still didn't get the mission. So after his resurrection, now this is kind of neat because they are talking to the resurrected Savior that had been crucified, buried, and now they're talking to this. Something ought to click there. And when they get with him, they say, are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel? They're still thinking earthly kingdom. They're still thinking we're going to whoop the daylights out of the Romans, set them running like a scared dog with their tail tucked between their legs, and we're going to be the king of the hill like we were supposed to be all the way back there in Deuteronomy in the last chapter or two, where he says, if you're faithful, I'll give you all these blessings. They wanted their reward, and they were wanting it now. They were like, come on, Lord, when are we going to get it? When are we going to get it? And they were going to get it in the afterlife. It's so hard to let go and just trust God. God, I know you're way smarter than I am. Easier to say. But now I'm just going to take your hand and follow. And I'm going to do what you say to do, the way you say it ought to be done. And I'm going to trust that you'll do me right when it's all said and done. So patience, it's trained. It's not a baptismal gift. You come up out of the waters for baptism, you're a new creature. Amen. That's what the Bible says. And you need milk. You need the sincere milk of the Word. You need to start sucking on that baby bottle, so to speak, and start learning the training. And the training comes from the struggles of life. That's James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. Let's read it. You know it. I hope you know it by memory by now. Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. New King James says patience there. Let patience, endurance have its perfect result so that you may be perfect, complete, and lacking nothing. You see it? It's part of the training. The trials of life are part of the training, and that's what God is telling us. Now, if we had more time and we don't, you can open up a whole lot of that. Let me make it just really short. Before God said, let there be light, he saw the end from the beginning. And he knew we'd need this verse. It's training. We're in spiritual boot camps, how I like to say it. So in Galatians 5:22, it's something we grow, we cultivate it, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, and patience. Now yours may say perseverance. I know there's some variation there. But I do know this, the day you plant the seed and the day you eat the produce are not the same day. It takes time for your garden to grow. You have to work it, you got to cultivate it, you got to keep the weeds out, you got to fertilize it, so on and so forth. That's the way it works. And the problem is, as I say here, modern religion is too concerned about games and funds and frills and entertainment, and there's not a whole lot of training that goes on. That's a shame, because it's all training. That's what we're here for, is to learn to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, to learn to carry our cross. That is our priority, to learn to imitate Christ. That's 1 Corinthians 11:1. So, be careful here. Don't play the comparison game. You look at your daily mundane life, and look, our lives on the American standard are very mundane. Now, on the global standard, 90% of the world looks at you and go, wow, wonder if they'd let me live in their garage. 90% of the world looks at us that way. But since we're in the top 10%, we're always looking up the ladder. And our mundane life compared to the highlight reels, it can stir up impatience. We feel like we're missing out. And we are missing out on some physical things. I think that's a valid assessment. But you let go of all of those at the grave. So if you start focusing on earthly success, you're going to start thinking less and less of eternal rewards. Now, here's my rationale. My little brain is only 3 poundish, and I only have so much RAM, random access memory, and I only have so much processing power. And I used to know those numbers, but I forgot at the moment. Now, my brain can't exceed that. So if I have 100 kilobytes of current present processing power, and I give 99 of those kilobytes over to looking at people with earthly success, how many kilobytes do I have left to think about the eternal reward coming in heaven? 1. 99 kilobytes sitting over here going, oh, I'm just missing out on it all. This isn't fair, having the whiny, complaining, moaning game. And I got 1 kilobyte focused on heaven. What if we flip that around? And I have 99 kilobytes set on heaven, seeking the things above. And now and then one of them flickers on and off about, yeah, but look at Bezos. Look at Elon Musk. Actually, if you look at Elon Musk and you look past his bank account and you look at his private life, it ain't worth $250 billion. Let me tell you, I won't go into the stories now, but I'm like, So the rich do live a good life physically. And I think what you need to do is you got to get that eternal perspective and think about the rich man. And so the rich man, this is out of Luke 16, he's in Hades, he's in torment, and he sees Lazarus in his bosom, and all he wants is a drop of water to cool his tongue. I bet that rich man, more than anything in the world now, wishes he had pursued the right reward and chased heaven instead of chasing his opulence that he had. Yeah, he lived a good life physically. And he died and left it all behind. So we got to be patient pilgrims. That's what we are. Now, the New American Standard calls us aliens and strangers. New King James calls us pilgrims, and that's all we are. And so we're here. We're for training. We're going to embrace the training. Pain is just part of life. And so if you're going to hurt, and you are, get a reward for it. Now, isn't that wonderful? If you're going to hurt, get a reward for it. And the reward you want to get for it is to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Why hurt and whine and moan and bellyache and get, depart from me, I know you not? Then you had a lifetime of pain with an eternity of pain. I know this is simple logic, but I'd rather have the lifetime of pain and an eternity of bliss. If we're going to hurt, and everybody does, get a reward for it. Work it right. It's a choice. It's a decision. It's trained. It is. It's just tough for people to do. Demas couldn't do it. Demas is out traveling with Paul, and he looks at the present world, and he looks at how comfortable and easy everybody's got it, and he says, I ain't hanging around the church anymore. I'm going to go get what's mine. And he dropped out of the spiritual race. So, patience. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You're the only one that can stop you, which is really kind of cool. You're the only one that throw in the towel. Look, Satan's just a salesman. You don't have to buy what he's selling. You can set your mind on heaven, Colossians 3:1-2. You can hang out there. You get to choose which reward you're after. Now, in parentheses there, it says not by your good intentions, but by our daily choices. That's how you choose. Good intentions are a very fundamental starting point. I think you got to have the good intention, but a good intention without a follow through is just a wish. So, which reward are you choosing? Which one you going after? Which one sparks your heart? Then go after it. If you're not on the straight and narrow, as our song's getting ready to say, Jesus is calling. If you wandered off, hadn't really engaged it and got traction, time to get traction. Go out with a bang. Go out in victory. Go out in certainty and confidence. If you're subject to our public invitation, Baptisters ready, while we stand and sing.